All right, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It's Mr. G talking to you again. We are going to talk about some different tools in our Pixlr today. Today we're talking about our shape tool, our marquee tool, and we're talking about fills, strokes, and gradients. Okay, so this is right where we left off yesterday, where you took a screenshot of that. We're going to go ahead and go back to our home screen. That's right there. Again, these stay in here as long as you don't refresh your browser. So after you've taken that screenshot, you really don't need it. So if you want one to go away, you can just hit the little X and it'll go away, okay? What we are going to do is we're going to go ahead and just start a new image today. We're going to just create a new image, just a blank image, okay? We are going to do, let's just do web right here where it says 720p. Now what that P stands for is pixels, so that is a resolution of 720 pixels per inch. So if you think of your television resolution, the higher the resolution, the better the television. So we're on the web here and we're all working remotely, so we're going to go relatively small here. Go ahead and create that. We can call this right over here, we'll name it Shapes Practice. Okay. And we have no background right there. We'll go ahead and leave that right there. We'll go ahead and create that. Okay. All right. So working with shape tools, we're going to go down here and we're going to skip these little creative tools right here just for today, because we're going to talk about this little paint bucket guy right there, the fill tool, the gradient tool, and the shapes tool. Okay, one other tool we're going to talk about is our marquee tool, because it obviously can make shapes too. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, we're going to take our bucket here and we are going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and turn on my little highlighter here. Try to turn on my highlighter here. All right, so I've got my paint bucket here. Again, paint bucket says fill whole areas with a single color. Okay, so we are on the background layer. It is selected. There's nothing there because we see this black and white checkerboard grid pattern here. So if I click in there, it's going to fill it with a color. It filled mine with red. Okay, now if I wanted to change that, I go right here. So we got our color picker is right here. Okay, so I can click right in there and I can pick any color on the color spectrum here. Okay, so it's got some presets down here. Looks like of some colors that we've recently had. So if I wanted to fill it with a green, okay, and the way the color picker works here, you'll see down here. So over here I've got white all the way to black down here on the bottom. And over here I have full intense color going all the way to black. Okay, so from color to black and color to white. Okay, now color right here, just brief color theory. So this is fully intense color. So that is the most intense green in that range right there that I can get. Okay, now color plus white is a tint. So to make tints, I slide my color closer to the white. And you see over here in this box right here that you'll have your color will reflect where it's at. So to make tints, you slide closer to the white. To make tones, the color plus black, we slide closer to the black all the way at the bottom. Okay? And then saturation is going to be from black and white down here, where white and black meet, all the way to full saturation, which is up in this corner. So as I go down here, it's going to get grayer and grayer. Okay? And everything in between there is everywhere else. Okay, so that's how the color slider works. If I want to change the color, I just move up here. Okay, now you see all these different numbers over here too. HSBB, RGB, and hue, saturation, and brightness is what HSB stands for. RGB stands for red, green, and blue. Okay, so these are what these are. These are telling the same information in a differences. So this is an RGB and this is an HSB system, okay? Wherever I click in here, it's going to change that number, and you'll see those numbers change as I move it around, okay? In the graphic arts world, some colors, like say if I need McDonald's red, like the red that McDonald's uses has a specific color range, and all the products they print are going to be this specific range, and it'll have a number assigned it. It might be this 359 hue, saturation is 100, brightness of 85. So that's what those numbers refer to. So when a print company goes to print those, they'll know what those are. All right, any who's'll be. So let's go ahead and pick a nice green so we can contrast here, and we're going to get our paint bucket again and just dump it in there, okay? Now the way the paint bucket works, it's going to fill it with paint until it runs into an edge or another color. So if I go over here and let's say I make a shape, okay, I'm just going to randomly make a square right here, and I'm going to make a pink and green square right there. Now if and I'm going to change my color just so you can see it, let's make a nice purple, okay. If I go and take my paint bucket now, and I fill this is all on the same layer, it's just going to fill that square. Okay, I'm going to push Command Z to undo. Now if I click it out here, it's just going to fill everything but that square because it's running into an edge. When the pixels change color, it stops filling that area. Okay, so that's how that works. Again, if I have a different shape, let's put a circle in here like that. And we'll change our color again. When I have the paint bucket tool, areas that are similar, like all this purple, we're going to turn that color until they run into the edge. This circle here, it'll only fill that circle. Okay? So that brings us into shapes, as we're talking about now. Okay? You'll see that these are all on the same layer. So I can't move this square right here. If I want to move something, it's going to move my whole darn layer. Okay? So let's say that I want to have a shape on its own layer. How would I do that? Well, the easiest way to do that is just go ahead and go over here and make a new layer, make a new empty layer. Now I can make a shape. Okay, we click the shapes panel here, and you'll see up here I can make a variety of different shapes. I can make rectangles and squares. I can make rounded rectangles and squares. I can make circles and ovals. I can make triangles, stars, hearts, and I can make lines. Okay, also here you'll see opacity, stroke, and fill. Okay, your color swatches down here refer to how your shape is going to appear. So if I click and let's get a nice orange shape, and I've got a pink outline here. Let's change that just so we can see. Let's change it to a blue. Okay. Notice I've got my layer 1 and layer 2. Wherever I have highlighted is where I'm going to build this shape. So I'm going to have on this new blank layer. When I poke out the eye off of the layer underneath, there's nothing there. I just have this empty layer. So when I turn that back on and I draw my circle, you'll see I can drag, I can make ovals of any shape, okay? But when I let this go, I can grab my move tool, and because that is the only object on that layer, I can move it around now. I can rotate it, I can resize it, I can squeeze it, I can hold down shift and distort it, and I can do all those things because it's on its own layer. Now if I draw another shape on here, let's go ahead and just draw another shape. Let's make a star this time. I'll make a star, okay? Now will the star be independent? Will I be able to move the star? No, Mr. G, you won't, because it's on the same layer as the circle. So if I do Command Z, if I want that star to be on its own layer, I have to make a new layer. And then draw my star. Then, oopsie doopsie. Oh, I made a mistake. So here's a good example. So Mr. G made a mistake. I created a new layer, but where's my star at? You can always tell from the little thumbnail, I actually put the star on the bottom layer. So when I go to move it, it's trapped with that other circle and square on this bottom layer. And up on layer 3, there's nothing. So if I turn off my eyeballs here, you see layer 3, there's nothing there. So if I go back there, you see now my star has disappeared. I just hit Command Z until I undid what where I made the star. So I go back up here to my layer 3. I'm going to make that star. Grab my shape tool. I've got the star highlighted. Let's make a yellow star this time. That's fine. So that when I make that, oop. Switch those. Okay. Switch those colors. So when I make my star on that new layer, now I've got a star here. Over here, I've got my circle that I can move around. And then I've got my base layer that we can move around all independently. All right, last thing we're going to talk about, okay? We're going to go ahead and we're going to make one more new layer here. We're going to go to the top, make a new layer. Again, a blank layer, okay? We're going to talk about this Marquee tool, okay? I'm going to take the Marquee tool here, okay? Marquee tool makes selections. Now, we haven't talked a lot about selections, but it's relevant in shapes here because we can make circles or we can make squares. And we've got some modes here. So if we hold over top of this, so I can make a new selection, right? So let's just try that one first. So every time I'm on here and I drag out a square, now if I drag out another square, it's going to replace the next one every time, okay? But if I click this button, it says Add to Selection. It will actually continue to make new selections, okay? And I can even intersect those selections so that I make continuous compound shapes, okay? And I can switch between circles and squares to make those, okay? Right up here, the next one is Remove from Selection. So if I click that, when I make a shape now, the shape I make is going to take away from that selection, from the inside or the outside, wherever it's going to intersect the existing selection. So those are the three modes. I can make a new one, I can add to this selection, or I can take away from that selection. That's very cool, Mr. G, but what can I do with these selections? Now, what we can do with these selections, you can make custom shapes. So I made this weird shape here. Let's go ahead and fill it here. I'm going to pick a different color. Let's do a nice deep royal blue there. We're going to push OK. And I'm going to take my paint bucket here, and I'm going to make sure I'm on that layer, and I'm going to fill that shape. Okay. Now you'll see that it filled everything because I have an active selection. The selection means these little dotted lines, these marching ants, or the marquee that goes around here, that is a selection. Okay. So let's stop there and we will pick up there tomorrow. All right. Make sure you take a screenshot of this, and you are going to turn this in for your weekly assignment with the other the total of 3 screenshots. So you should have one with the crop tool liquefy and blemish and clone tool. You should have one with the blur, dodge, and burn and sponge tools, and this one where we played with shapes and marquees. Okay, have a super day, and